Hare Krishna Sorry?
Hare Krishna everyone. Welcome to Shri Radha Islam. On behalf of our exciting music, Shri Radha, we welcome you to our first ever Japa retreat at the Devi's temple. I'm very happy and very honored to have His Holiness Swami, His Great Prabhu, and three lovely Matajis from Chicago. Here's Rupa Devdasi, her Grace Sri Rupa Devdasi, and Sveta Menon. So much for taking time from your busy schedule to be with us. And the theme of our retreat is taking shelter of the holy name. I'm not going to take too much of your time, but as we all know, chanting makes this iron age the golden age, because it's just by simply chanting, we can go back home, back to Godhead. So I'm going to let Maharaja take it over from there, but chanting is what this weekend is going to be about, and please tell all your friends and family to come as well. We have 2 days tomorrow and Sunday. Sunday will be a 64-round game, which will be a unique experience, so please make sure that you are all here. It's important to be here tomorrow for our nectar. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Kirtan's over. Sounds like birds in the morning. How many here have attended a Japa retreat before? Okay. So many of you are in for something new. The theme is a little different than what Premadhatri said. The returning to our original shelter. Returning to our original shelter. And the significance of that is a major part of what we're going to be doing tomorrow is hearing from one of our great acharyas who we're all indebted to, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who, following the teachings of Rupa Goswami and other predecessor acharyas, gave exhaustive, extensive teachings on Sharanagati. Sharana means surrender. Oh, very good, thank you. Sharana means surrender, and Agati, the songs are called Sharanagati. Going to the position of, or attaining the position of, striving to come to the position of surrender. So that's the returning to our original shelter. Those teachings that Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives, as I mentioned, they come from Lord Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya gave the chanting of the holy name. Prime benediction for this age, as she said, changes the iron age into the golden age. The full possibility of human consciousness and love of God can be achieved in this very simple way, chanting. Taking shelter of that transcendental sound vibration of Krishna's holy name. So the process of that taking shelter is described by Lord Chaitanya to his followers, particularly Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, who wrote books, and then they taught others the essence of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. One of those great acharyas who received from Rupa Goswami was Jiva Goswami. And because I've studied the writings, some parts of the writings of Jiva Goswami, I can say that everything that Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes is right from Jiva Goswami, which is right from Rupa Goswami, which is right from Lord Chaitanya. Meaning, it's knowledge in cyclic succession. It's not ascending knowledge, it's descending knowledge of how to come to the position of full shelter of Krishna. So in that writing of Jiva Goswami, one section is called Bhakti Sandarbha. And in this Bhakti Sandarbha, it's the longest of this commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he begins this long section by asking a question, and then he answers the question. The question is, how did our material existence begin? Because if you know how your material existence begins, it gives you a good clue how to end it. Just like we entered the temple room through that door. So when it's time to exit, we know where to go. There's a big sign, exit. We can leave through the same entryway that we came. It becomes the exit. So how did material life begin tells us how to terminate material existence, the miseries of material existence, and the whole of material existence, and restore our original spiritual existence, the fullness of our spiritual existence. So in a classic way, he presents opposing ideas first. Some say this and refutes, some say that and refutes, some say another thing and refutes. And then poses the real reason, which is we turned our attention away from Krishna. The Sanskrit phrase he uses is Bahir Mukha Jeev. Bahir means away, just like Bahir Nishingo Hridaye Nishingo. Nrsimhadev is both outside and inside. It's like when Prahlad Maharaja was asked by Hiranyakashipu, where is this Vishnu? And Prahlad's answer was everywhere. Vishnu is everywhere. He's inside and he's outside. So, Bahir Mukha, Mukha means face. Bahir Mukha Jeev, one who has turned their face or their attention away. That brings material existence. So, the solution is turn your face towards Samukha. Turn your face toward Krishna. Turn your attention to Krishna. Restoring that original shelter, that's the theme. Restoring that original shelter. I remember hearing really early Prabhupada gave a very simple example. When you look at the sun, what do you see? You see light. You turn your back to the sun, what do you see? You see shadow. And there's not a third thing. There's light or there's shadow. Same idea from the Sanskrit phrase, tamasi ma jyotir gama. Tamasi ma meaning not, like maya. Tamasi ma, say no to darkness. Jyotir gama, go to the light. In fact, that's where the phrase back to Godhead that became his monthly magazine, Back to Godhead. Jyotir gama. Same, Sharanagati, returning to original shelter. That's the theme. So it's, in principle, quite simple. Just turn to the light. And turn your back to the darkness, to the shadow. the material world is called a place of darkness, or a shadow of the spiritual reality. In chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita, without going into too much description of chapter 15, there's a description of a tree, beginning of chapter 15. It's an upside down tree. The branches are growing down, and the roots are growing up. Now there's no such tree, other than in the reflection of a tree. So here's a tree, and it's on the far bank of a lake, and the branches are growing up and the roots are growing down. But in the reflection, the branches are growing down and the roots are growing up. That's this world. It's the reflection of the spiritual world. The reflection of the spiritual world is the material world, where what is to be done is not to be done. And what is not to be done is to be done. It's the world of darkness. If you read Bhagavad Gita carefully, this is simply a description of knowledge in the mode of ignorance. What is to be done is not to be done. And what is not to be done is done. Knowledge in the mode of ignorance. Tamsi ma. Giving up that, saying no to Maya and saying yes to Krishna. Taking shelter from Krishna. Very simple. In principle, very simple. But there's a problem. Have you noticed? There's always a problem. And behind that problem, there's another cause of that problem. That problem is the effect of a prior problem. And that problem is the effect of a prior problem. The original cause of all problems is we turned our attention away from Krishna. And now we're attached to darkness. We're attached to passion too. In fact, that's one of our favorites, especially in this middle planetary system. In Madhye Tishtanti Rajasa, the language of Bhagavad Gita. Urdhvam Gacchanti Sattva. Those who are situated in Sattva, Sattva. Urdhvam. They go to the higher planets. But this place, Madhye Tishtanti Rajasa, and Rajasa is a place where people are passionate. They want to enjoy. And they work hard or make endeavors like anything, intense endeavors of future passion, to get some result. And there's a byproduct of passion, according to Bhagavad Gita, and that's anger and frustration. Because when desire or expectations are unfulfilled, just last night, I was with a really nice couple, nice boy, and for some reason they were very open about, we have anger in our family. The wife towards the husband and the child towards mother and father, the husband towards his wife and the child. And they're nice people. Spirit souls, very nice. But mode of passion says, I have my expectations. I want you to be like this. Because my standard of happiness is you should be like this. But he's not always like she expects him to be, and she's not always like he expects her to be. And so the expectation isn't met, and so there's frustration. And then there's anger. And then he says something, and she says something, and the child's going, Mommy and Daddy, cool, work out your problems. Love one another. They feel frustrated, but nice, pious, but passion interferes. And passion turns into anger. Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajoguna, Samudbhava. So what's the solution? Turn the channel. Turn the channel to taking shelter of Krishna. Cultivate the quality of goodness as far as possible. And something that certainly assists that is striving to take shelter of Krishna. There's an impediment to Krishna. What's that? We're too busy trying to be the enjoyer of fruitive activities, and the result of those fruitive activities that bring objects to the senses and enjoying the objects of the senses. And that's the program, and we got into it. And that's success. And if I'm going to be a spiritual, dabble or move a little bit towards spiritual life, my expectation is going to take care of my sense gratification. My expectations are going to be met. It's the wrong perspective. And so, properly, the Vedic scripture teaches again and again, and again and again. And so repetitious that finally the good listener says, okay, I get it. That our intention of imitating the Purusha, and so being the imitation Purusha, instead of Parama Purusha, we want to be the Purusha. We want to be the enjoyer of Prakriti. And we need to change that position and accept our position as the servant. The part and parcel, really simple. The part is meant to serve the whole. Really simple. Prabhupada gives this example. Suppose there's a screw, and to make your machine operate, automobile or whatever it is, you need this screw. And if your machine won't work without the screw, you're paying all kinds of money to get that screw to make your machine work. But if you just see that screw lying on the floor, it's insignificant. Disconnected with the whole, it's insignificant. Connected to the whole, it's very valuable. The part is meant to serve the whole. Another example. Supposing you're walking down the sidewalk and you see somebody's, excuse the expression, you see a finger lying on the sidewalk. Yuck. But the person who's missing that finger would really value that finger. But the value of the finger is that it's connected to the whole. And disconnected from the whole doesn't have value. It's connected to the whole, the part connected to the whole. Then it has meaning and value. Same for us. What's our real identity? Not the temporary one, not the imagined one, but the transcendentally unchanging real one. We're going to Bhagavad Gita from Krishna. Mami Mamsa Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta, Sanatana. Sanatana, eternally. We're part of the Supreme. And the part is meant to serve the whole. Our identity is to be in service to Krishna. And when we stray from that position, darkness, misery, trying for happiness, ending in misery. Study Bhagavad Gita carefully, and it's really clear. Yeti samsparsha ja bhoga, dukkha yodaya. Dukkha. You expect sukha, and you get dukkha. You don't want dukkha. You don't want misery. You expect happiness. That's why you do what you do, because you're expecting happiness and expecting misery. But misery comes. And we do it again and again and again. It's like really donkey-like. Why? You want happiness. So there is a real happiness. The problem is aversion to the real happiness. Aversion to the reservoir of all happiness, the reservoir of all pleasure. Although we want pleasure. Supposing you're thirsty, you go to a reservoir that has water. You draw some water from the reservoir of water. Pretty simple. But we have an aversion to that position of taking shelter of Krishna. So we do fruitive activities and we suffer. It's not just teaching in scripture, it's what happens in life. Material life. So spiritual life doesn't mean negation. Spiritual life means going to the light. Going to Krishna, taking shelter of Krishna. So that's the theme for this Japa retreat. And taking shelter of Krishna, it's poetic language in one sense, to say take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, but it's not just poetic. It's like, according to scriptural teaching, when you approach the deity, the recommendation is you first meditate upon the lotus feet of the deity, and then the legs of the deity, the waist of the deity, the chest of the deity, the beautiful face of the deity. This is the scriptural recommendation. You approach the lotus feet. Same with the Srimad Bhagavatam. You begin with the first and second canto, and according to Bhadra, that's the lotus feet. And the lotus feet being approached means you're in a humble mood. You're in the mood of taking shelter and wishing to be of service, wishing that your life is pleasing to the object of love, Krishna. That's the spirit or the mood of take shelter. So I wanted to discuss a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Krishna speaking to Uddhava. Now everyone here knows Krishna, you may not all know Uddhava. Outside of Vrindavan, the most intimate associate of Krishna was Uddhava. Arjuna was his dearmost friend, and so Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. But even Arjuna looks up to Uddhava in terms of intimacy and knowledge. He was giving advice to Krishna. Krishna would seek advice from Uddhava. I mean, it was a pastime, a mood of loving exchange. But Uddhava knew Krishna's heart, inside and out. Incredibly vast in his wisdom as well. So that just before Krishna departed, Uddhava knew that Krishna was going to depart because he knew Krishna's heart. He literally came crying. This is in Dwarka. Crying. You're going to leave. I won't be able to live. He didn't say don't leave because he knew he was going to leave. How will I maintain my existence in your absence? So Krishna instructed him exhaustively, even longer than Krishna instructed Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore it's called Uddhava Gita, 11th canto. This is a section from Uddhava Gita where, having heard from Krishna exhaustively, now Uddhava is speaking back to Krishna. What he has understood, he is expressing his realization and glorifying Krishna. Just the first line. Tapa chayanavi gitasya gore. The translation, my dear Lord, the one who is being tormented on the terrible path of birth and death, and is constantly overwhelmed by the threefold miseries. I do not see any possible shelter other than your two lotus feet, which are just like a refreshing umbrella that pours down showers of delicious nectar. It's poetic. Umbrellas are to stop the rain, the downpour of rain. In this case, the metaphor of the rain of miseries, of the tapatraya, the threefold miseries of material existence. Here's an umbrella. Krishna's lotus feet, taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, protect one from the downpouring of miseries. This is the Bhagavatam. Those of you that are familiar with nectar devotion, Rupa Goswami's writing says the same thing. Even in the beginning stages, all of us are in the beginning stages, sadhana stage, not yet bhavana, prema stage. So even in the beginning of the sadhana practice stage, kleshanti, the miseries of material existence are mitigated. How? Take shelter of lotus feet. Krishna in the mood of serving. And his lotus feet act like an umbrella. They protect one from the downpour of threefold miseries of material existence. At the same time, just like King Prithu, he's one of the incarnations of the Supreme Lord, when he was coronated as king, Varuna gave him a gift. Many of the devas gave him gifts. And the gift that he gave him was an umbrella that sprinkled very light droplets of nectar from the inside of the umbrella. Sweet nectar, little, like spray. Similarly, Krishna's lotus feet are like that. They spray the nectar, the amrita of his association. Or in the language of Rupa Goswami, Shubha. They give Shubha, or auspiciousness in his life. Taking shelter, coming to that position of shelter, of original shelter, returning to that original shelter, is taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. They do these two things. Just even striving, agati, sharana, agati. But tomorrow we're going to hear some songs of sharanagati. This is just a warm-up. Get us, appreciating the theme, the message. Now, in this age, the most accessible form of that shelter of Krishna's lotus feet is in the form of his holy name. And the giver of that shelter of Krishna's holy name specifically was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's a very beautiful painting. He's crying in ecstasy of love for Krishna. And various acharyas have given glorifications of this manifestation of Krishna's holy name. I'm going to offer you a few, but there's many, many, many. One of them that I like is given by Baladev Vidyagosan. Many of you, he's from India, you know Vishnu Sahasranam. Within Mahabharata, there's this section of Mahabharata where 1,000 names of Vishnu are uttered. And he has unlimited numbers of names, but 1,000 are identified. One of our great acharyas made a commentary on each one of those 1,000 names. And for name number 20 in that list of 1,000 is Krishna. So here's what he writes, taking from Gopaltapani Upanishad. The syllable Krish means existence, and the syllable Na means bliss. The combination of these two is Krishna, the existence of bliss. We're taking to take shelter of Krishna is to take shelter of eternal bliss. It's not a problem. It's actually very nice. Except we're not attracted. Durdaya Yudhishthira Haji Nada Raga. We don't have attraction. Jiva Goswami speaks this way. When the word Krishna is uttered in a mantra, the very moment the first syllable is vibrated, this sound attracts the attention of Lord Krishna himself. Please remember this, especially on our 64-round day, because I've had feedback from many who have taken part in Japa retreats. Somehow this gives special power. When you're chanting, it's not just something that you're doing. In other words, passion is, I'm adored. Someone was sharing the other day. Since childhood, I know how to put my mind to something, be very determined, and strive to get that something and get that something. Proactive. I'm going to do well in my exam, or I'm going to do well in this musical ability, or classical dance, or becoming with something or other. We all know that one. We've been trained since little. We compete against other little ones to do that. We learn the whole system of I'm the door. And spiritual life is different. Hit the delete button on that program and switch to another program where we're in a relationship with the Supreme Person and we extend ourselves to Him and He gives Himself to us. Jiva Goswami says, you just say the first syllable and Krishna is immediately attracted and He's there. We'll explore this a little bit more later, so I'm not just trying to set the stage for the theme of this time together. When we submit ourselves to Krishna, Krishna wants to give Himself to us in full. There's this Sanskrit phrase, Romapada. Material existence is aham, maneti, I and mine. The spiritual conception is, what is mine is one thing, it's my relationship with Krishna, that's what's mine. I belong to Krishna, that's surrender. I am Krishna's property. He can do with me what He likes. There's a very beautiful description in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Some of you know Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's the life of Lord Chaitanya. And he speaks this way about one of his devotees named Vasudeva Dutt. And he says it over and over again, I declare to you, I am Vasudeva Dutt's man. I am his property. He can do with me whatever he likes. He can sell me at any price. I declare it again and again. I am the property of Vasudeva Dutt. He can do with me whatever he likes. He can sell me at any price. I am his man. I declare it again. It just keeps saying it over. Why? Why is he speaking like that? Because for Vasudeva Dutt, there's nothing else for Vasudeva Dutt than Lord Chaitanya. There's nothing else. And one who gives himself to Lord Chaitanya in that way, or Krishna, he gives himself to that person in the same way. This phrase, this text, is taken from the 9th canto of Bhagavatam. Some of you know about Durvasa Muni, and Durvasa Muni offended, more than offended, he tried to kill Maharaja, a great devotee. He met with a little problem when he did that. The Sudarsana chakra of Lord Vishnu destroyed the fiery demon that he was sending to kill Maharaja Amrish, and that same Sudarsana chakra pursued Durvasa Muni. And Durvasa Muni fled for his life. He was a mystic, so he didn't just run. By mystic power, he was traveling throughout the universe. He went eventually to the abode of Lord Vishnu. Durvasa was such a mystic. And he fell at the feet of Lord Vishnu and said, "Help! The Sudarshan chakra is your weapon. I made a big offense at the feet of your devotee and didn't know his greatness. Please forgive me for my mistake and please take the Sudarshan chakra away." And Lord Vishnu says, "I can't. I can't act outside of the will of my devotee." And why? Because the pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I'm always within the core of the pure devotee's heart. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anyone else but them. In other words, bhakti is a relationship. It's not just something we do. It's a relationship. It's different than fruitive activity. Different. Whole different program. Whole different paradigm. Spiritual paradigm. It's the relationship with the Supreme Person. Mamata is Krishna accepts the devotee in the same way the devotee accepts Krishna. If the devotee accepts Krishna, I am yours. Krishna accepts the devotee in that way too. And proportionate. Is a very nice example of that, again from Vishnu Sahasranam, where the name of one of the 1,000 names of Vishnu is Vasumana. There's 8 Vasus, they're great personalities in the universe, and one of them who descended upon earth was Bhishmadev. As you see Bhishmadev here lying on a bed of arrows. So to explain this, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur narrates a little story. And the little story is, one time, Yudhishthira, Arjun's brother Yudhishthira, woke up in the morning, and before he began his morning activity, he went to pay his respects to Krishna. And when he went to pay his respects to Krishna one morning, he saw Krishna in meditation. So he didn't want to disturb him. And meditation went on for a long time. He kept coming back. Krishna was still in meditation. Finally, Krishna finished his meditation. Yudhishthira came and paid his respect and then requested, "May I ask, what was it that you were meditating on?" He said, "I was meditating on Bhishma." Because Bhishma, at the time of death, all he could think of was me. And because all he could think of was me, all I could think of is Bhishma. I was just meditating on Bhishma. Vaso, mana means mind. So the name of Vishnu is one who has Bhishma Deva in his mind. He's reciprocating with the affection, the shelter taking of his beloved devotee. So these are some of the appreciations and glories of taking shelter of Krishna, taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, taking shelter of the holy name of Krishna. So, should be easy. He's all attracted. He's attracted to us. We're nothing. So it should be 1, 2, 3, or even just 1, 2. It should be so easy. So why is it not so easy? And the explanation given again to the Swami, keeping it simple, is there's impurities in the heart. There's impurities in the heart because we made offenses against Krishna, and against Krishna's devotees, and against Krishna's name, and against the process of bhakti, and against the deity, and against other living entities. And so the heart is infested with darkness. And the remedy, one of the essential remedies, is taking the humble position. So we're going to hear this in the Sharanagati songs I'm preparing you for tomorrow. It's the first set of songs. Dainga is the word that Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses. Jiva Goswami's word is singru. Dinatva is humility. Calling out in a shelter-taking mood. Calling out in a shelter-taking mood. I'm struggling in this material existence. Something similar to what Uddhava said to Krishna. I see no other place of shelter than your lotus feet. And that mood of humbly taking shelter is embedded in this word that we hear again and again and again in Vedic mantras, Namaha. Namaha. This is now from Padma Purana. Very simple definition of Namaha. Like we say, Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya, Namaha. But just this thing, when you arrive in the Delhi airport, Pranam, so a pair of folded hands, welcome. Namaha. Here's what it means. It's a nice gesture. It's in all cultures as far as I have seen, with some folded palms. But what does it mean when it's the actual sense of the term? Na represents ahankara, ma, and na represents negation of ahankara. Thus, by uttering Namaha, one regrets one's independent attitude, na maha. I want to leave aside or leave behind my false sense of independence. The jiva is dependent on the Lord. He lives with dependence. Therefore, one should completely reject the idea of accomplishing by one's own capacity. Nothing is left to be accomplished by the ability of the Lord. Abandoning false ego. And the positive then, where do we go? We take shelter of the Lord. I am yours. And when you hear the Sharanagati songs, that's the second set of songs. There's 6 sets. This is you say, a philosophical foundation to what we're going to be hearing tomorrow morning. There's a nice painting of the 4 Kumaras. They're very attracted to the lotus feet of Lord Narayana. And that way they achieve spiritual perfection. Just 2 nice prayers and we're done for this evening. This is from Haribhakti Sudodaya. My dear Lord, O Master of the Universe, since I have directly seen you, my transcendental bliss has taken the shape of a great ocean. Being situated in that ocean, I now realize all other so-called happiness to be like the water contained in the hoofprint of a cat. So there's the hoofprint of a cat. And supposing it doesn't rain so much in Arizona, supposing you're somewhere where it rains. And the hoofprint of the cat fills. There's been a lot of rain in Chicago. There's a little creek by the side of our center neighborhood, suburban center. It's right at the top, ready to overflow. The temple's in a 100-year floodplain. It hasn't flooded yet, but it's getting really close. Lots of rain. So in the hoofprint of a cat, some water can fit. But the amount of water in the hoofprint of a calf is insignificant compared to an ocean. Similarly, the happiness, this shower of nectar inside the umbrella of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, is oceanic compared to something that's insignificant. The happiness derived from fruitive activity, or the happiness derived from heavenly pleasure, or the happiness derived from liberation. Insignificant. There they are, the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. One more. Rupa Goswami has written some very beautiful prayers, many, but amongst them, especially nice, so there's 8 prayers to the holy name, Namashtakam, where he says, "Oh, holy name, the tips of the toes of your lotus feet." Did you know the holy name has lotus feet? That means he's a person. Nama Prabhu is a person that has feet, and the feet have toes, and the toes have tips of the toes. The tips of the toes of your lotus feet are constantly being worshipped by the glowing radiance emanating from the string of gems known as the Upanishads, the crown jewels of all the Vedas. But like a king has a treasury. I don't know too much about the treasury of the king, but they have this phrase, the crown jewels, like the crown jewels of the King of London and the King of England. So out of all the king's treasury, there's most coveted, specially appreciated jewels called the crown jewels. So amongst all the jewels of the Vedas, the Upanishads are considered to be the crown jewels of all the jewels of the Vedas. And the radiance of those Upanishads are worshipping the tips of the toes of the lotus feet of the holy name. Beautiful poetry. Of all the portions of the Vedas, the Upanishads are revered, especially elevated, especially authoritative, especially jewel-like and radiant, especially valued. And the effulgence of those Upanishads are worshipping the tips of the toes of the holy name. That's the pinnacle of the objective of the Upanishads, taking shelter of the holy name. You are eternally adored by liberated souls such as Narada and Shukadeva. Oh Hari Nam, I take complete shelter of you. This is taking shelter of original shelter, Krishna. So these two, Shukadeva and Narada, from their very birth, they were perfected souls. They didn't become perfected. Even before they were born, they were perfected. And then they were born and distributing perfection to others wherever they come in contact. And those two worship the holy name. They adore the holy name. So there are teachers by example. So our time spent this weekend. Tomorrow, primarily, in the evening there'll be nice evening kirtan. But during the day, we're going to hear different passages from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's instructions on taking shelter of Krishna. Not only the holy name, taking shelter of Krishna in his various forms. And starting with humility, and then dedication of oneself, and so forth. We'll hear through the reading of these songs. So hopefully you'll feel inspired, so that on Sunday this is all preparation for our 64 round day in one sense. And the 64 round day is just immersion in one thing, the holy name. And it's very elevating, very purifying, filled with reciprocation with Krishna in different ways. We'll do some sharing at the end. What was your experience like? Your reciprocation, what you felt and what you felt from Krishna. Because this is our prime means of elevation for the sage, the holy name of Krishna, this Mahamantra. So we'll appeal to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for his mercy, and all of his associates will have a nice kirtan for some party tomorrow, and then immersion in the chanting of Japa together. There's a ring back. What is that? It's what?
Ring from that.
I know, but why?
Cool.
Oh, it's the AC is making that noise. Okay. We'll tolerate the noise. You're used to the temperatures down here, some of us aren't. Any comments or questions? Yes, something.
I just want
You better turn the volume down a little bit. Hold on a moment. Okay.
I just want to share. Some time ago, we have the Japa retreat in Houston, Congo, and we have more than 130 attendance from age 2-year-old to 80 years. And last Sunday, I was giving the Sunday first class, and I was asking the member in the Japa retreat, and a lot of the members, they stood up and they said that that time that we get together and chant the holy name of the Lord was the best time of our life. And ranging from 6-7-year-old child, they were chanting for 7-8 hours. And you will be amazed that if we will keep that faith, at least to come in association with the devotees, you will see that it will become very easy to chant for 6 and 7 hours, even if you feel impossible. So please have a courage at least to come, and you will drown into the transcendental bliss that you will eternally remember. There's something that you have done, very good thing in your life. Beginning of chanting Hare Krishna in association of the devotees, which is very fortunate. Souls can get the chance. So I humbly request that please take a little time and please join us tomorrow and the day after to dive into the nectarian oceans of bliss and happiness through chanting with the devotees. I'm very grateful that despite the busy schedule, His Holiness Swami Maharaja always keep the living entity in his mind and heart to give us the chance to come in association with the devotees and to realize the Lord. So we are very grateful to Maharaj for his kindness. Hare Krishna, Lord. Thank you so much for this wonderful lecture. I mean, there were so many beautiful points that struck my mind. But then, one point you said that happiness in this material world is like water contained in the car fumes, and the happiness in the spiritual world is like a sea ocean. I mean, it's so important to understand this again and again because when we are in outside material world, mind always wanders and it's always gets attracted toward that powerful happiness. But somehow, I mean, it's so hard to pull it back to the happiness of this person. So thank you so much. I mean, those points really touches your heart and you keep thinking about it, keep practicing.
Just taking what you just said and putting it together with what Shamsundar Prabhu said. I've conducted a number of Japa retreats in maybe a dozen different venues. And my experience is in all circumstances, it's what he said. Some people come not even planning to chant, but just because they're with others, they chant. I mean, one example, we were at a park somewhere. And the next day, after 64 round day, one of the most enthusiastic people to volunteer was a mother that had a lap child. And she said, I've never had my hand in a beat bag before. I came just to support my husband. And quite frankly, he chants 1 or 2 rounds a day. But he wanted to come, so I came with him. I had no intention of chanting. And my child fell asleep. I thought, let me try. Someone showed me how to put my hand in the beads and the hand in the bead bag. In that association, I chanted 16 rounds easily. Maybe I'll try another 16 rounds. In 16 rounds, it was blissful. I thought, maybe I'll chant some more. Then my child woke up, that's it. But it was such a wonderful, exhilarating experience. Then her husband wanted to, like my wife said, I chant 1 or 2 rounds. I understand the importance, but I've never really made that. So I thought, I chanted 64 rounds. I've never gone above 4 rounds, just in this association, etc., etc., etc. The being in the association of others where there's a focus, and the theme of the focus is returning to original shelter. It's a mood of surrender, it's not a mood of doing something. Like I mentioned, get an A in your exam, or get the job, or get the raise, or learn a skill, or get your driver's license, or something. There's a whole other shelter taking, is a whole other experience, enterprise, or undertaking. Is taking shelter. And you do that with others, it's powerful and transforming. It transforms hearts. An unforgettable experience. So, let's see what happens. Children, little children. I've seen, depends on the child, but some, they so much anticipate, and they're up at 2 o'clock in the morning. They've got, 16 rounds done by the time they come from Mogalarti. Anyway, we've got to do 64 rounds. Just, do it again for the rest of the year, but it's part of their life as a young bhakta. It's in the ocean of bliss, we get even a drop of that ocean of bliss surpasses any happiness of this world. It's a whole other qualitative, a whole other different happiness. More easily accessed in the association of others who are singly focused. We'll see as we go along. I feel like a tour guide or something. It's a wonderful adventure. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I'm just very appreciative of you conducting this Japa retreat here in Phoenix. I've listened to the recording several times, but really being here in person and going over all these important points is just way different. So thank you so much.
Okay, you're all welcome. So, 7:45. Let's have kirtan till 8, and then we'll break. Srila Prabhupada ki
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Krishna. So thank you very much, Maharaj and Chancellor Prabhu and Satyaji and Shilita, and Sudha. Thank you so much. So tomorrow morning we'll be starting with Mangala at 4:30, and then we'll have Japa from 5 to 7, 7 to 7:45 Guru Puja and greeting. And then the first class will be at 7:45 by Maharaj back home to our true shelter. After that, we'll be on